Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pour and Tell. I am Aaron Loomis, and with me today is June Liu, Seth Geis, John McTavish. How you guys doing this evening, afternoon?
Fantastic.
Doing well.
Hard to say no to a great cigar and a great bourbon. That sounds like right in my wheelhouse.
That's right. So today we are doing the pairing edition, where we are pairing Horse Soldier Bourbon with the American by J.C. Newman. We have some fantastic guests with us tonight. So without further ado, we'll get into the introductions. First off, I'd like to introduce retired U.S. Army Special Forces Captain Mark Nutsch. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We also have Merrick Mirabella, who's from American Freedom Distillery. How you doing, Merrick?
Good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. And we have Bobby Newman, the Executive Vice President of J.C. Newman. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. And our partner in crime for the last few of these shows is Jeff Borysiewicz from Corona Cigar and Florida Sungrown. How you doing, Jeff?
Hello, everybody, and we're looking forward to having another great discussion about great whiskey, great cigars, and I know we're going to have some great stories.
Absolutely. So I know we're going to get into in depth in regards to the story behind the kind of the impetus behind Horse Soldier Bourbon, American Freedom Distillery, and kind of the movie 12 Strong. But I'd like to ask Mark and Merrick if you can give us a bit of a brief history behind American Freedom Distillery.
Yes, American Freedom Distillery is a veteran-owned craft distillery that's a little over 6 years old. We're a group of former Special Forces veterans that had served together at different points throughout our career. And as we transitioned in choosing different, next career options, eventually we decided that we wanted to form a business together. And as I encourage many veterans to do, we found a number of great mentors that were other successful businessmen and folks in the industry that helped coach us along. And now we have this 6 years into it. And in our second year of distribution, we are probably quietly the fastest growing bourbon brand in America right now as a craft distillery. We have an incredible award-winning products that are entitled Horse Soldier Bourbon. And we're going to taste through 3 of those here tonight. We've got our straight, or our premium straight, that we'll get to here. We've got our signature small batch. And then the third offering for tonight is, as Bobby already implied, is our reserve barrel strength. So we're going to talk about that. I've got, if I can get this technically to work, I've got some original images of the brand history. I've got several videos I hope will play.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, we'll just have more of a discussion and field questions as we go anyway.
That's perfect. Sounds great. Bobby, J.C. Newman has a long history. Can you give us a brief synopsis of it?
Absolutely, I will. But before I do that, Jeff and I have been doing a series of these, and this is we're honored to have Mark with us. I sent Jeff the trailer from 12 Strong, the movie 12 Strong, and Mark is the most humble. He's a typical Green Beret, the quiet professionals. And Mark, I'm not your PR guy, but to see the movie 12 Strong, the trailer is like a little over 2 minutes. It's Mark Nutsch, and it's Chris Helmsworth playing Mark Nutsch. And I highly recommend, if you have not seen the movie, do yourself a favor. Is basically what these guys did was it was like what Jimmy Doolittle did, except a lot just as brave as what Jimmy Doolittle did. But our company was started by a grandfather in May of 1895. Our family came over, like most, unless you're Native American. Grandpa JC came from Hungary in 1888 as a 13-year-old, and came from Hungary, settled in Cleveland, Ohio. All the good paying jobs were up there. If you wanted to come in the South, you had to pick cotton or pick tobacco. There's very little industry. Grandpa JC started our business in May of 1895. He just turned 20 years old. We've been very blessed. We've been up and down like everybody else that's listening and watching all of us, each other. We've survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the Cuban embargo. We're now going through challenges with our friends in Washington at the FDA, and we're going to win that battle, that war. And this COVID, it's funny, this COVID-19, in 1918, we survived the Spanish flu, and this is where today we have 2 factories, one in Tampa, Florida. We make about 65,000 cigars a day on these hand-operated machines. We make the American brand, which we'll talk about later, completely by hand. Jeff, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jeff Borysiewicz, because we buy his tobacco, Florida sun-grown, and we have a factory in Nicaragua. We make a little over 100,000 cigars a day under the brands of Brickhouse, Prola del Mar, Quorum, and Don Jose and Alcazar.
Fantastic. All right, Jeff. So I want to kind of ask you of how you want to let this go. Do you want to talk about the background first? Do you want to get into the bourbon first? What was your vision for how you wanted to kind of tackle this?
So what I want to first do is we've been doing a lot of pairing of cigars with whiskey. We've had distillers and family members from Scotland, William Grant and Son, and Glenn Farkless and Balvenie Distillery. And we've had folks from Kentucky with Knob Creek and making all the bourbons there. And I just thought this would be an interesting one, because this one kind of ties in what our Florida-based company is and are trying to support. This is a real local movement for us. You know, Bobby Newman's in Tampa, Florida right now. Merrick's in the Davidoff store in Tampa. I'm in Orlando. Mark, I'm not sure where you're calling in from, but the American Freedom Distillery was recently opened in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yep.
And one of the things that I like to talk about is, it's all about, in my opinion, just keeping jobs in America, keeping our culture in America, and keeping the great products that we make here. And to me, I like to align with great companies. And when someone comes to Tampa, there's nothing better, in my opinion, than them being able to take a tour of the J.C. Newman Cigar Factory. It's been around for 125 years, rolling handmade cigars, making the American cigars that we're smoking now. That's using all American tobacco, including the wrapper that comes from our farm in Claremont, Florida. Now, after that, you can drive across the bridge, go to St. Petersburg, go to the American Freedom Distillery, and go have some whiskey, some vodka. I know they're making a lot of different spirits there. And you finish your night off right over there where Merrick is at our Davidoff store in Tampa. So we can and matter of fact, stop off and get you a steak at Burns Steakhouse in between. So that's like the ultimate day in Tampa. And so, with the virtual HERFs that we're doing now, we can share some of that inside knowledge, or some of that what's best of what makes the city of Tampa. We call it the Cigar City. It is the Cigar City, and we like to share that experience. And then I'm a huge fan of seeing startup companies succeeding, especially the story with the American Freedom Distillery. When Mark leads into what these guys are doing, that's what it's all about. Being able to have the ability in this country to start a company like this, especially with a group of veterans. And I got to tell you, they're kicking ass. They really are. And when you guys just did a bottle signing in our store in Tampa there last Friday, and you've done them in our store in Orlando as well. And people really enjoy the story because it resonates. It's true. It's something that really, we appreciate. So Mark, we thank you and the team and everybody else that serves our country. And that's kind of what we want to talk about tonight. Let's over some cigars and whiskey. Let's tell us what's going on, and share the story with folks that aren't familiar with it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do that. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate all the advice and counsel I've gotten from Mr. Bobby Newman and his team, and just so many folks that I've met the last 3 years that I've lived down in the Tampa and St. Petersburg area. I'm broadcasting tonight from an undisclosed location, but it's an honor to be here, and I just want to thank you all for putting this together. But let's jump into seeing if I can technically, if I'm technically enough proficient here to share a little screen and some images. It's saying the host has disabled attendee screen sharing.
All right, let me add it here.
Okay.
Aaron just likes to prevent random shenanigans.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's my fault right
Yeah.
there. That's anytime I'm on there, everything's disabled.
How many people do we got on tonight? So I'm looking at, we got the 8 of us
You should
here.
have just 8 on the
yeah.
video. Yeah.
And then it'll be rebroadcast and shared out across the time zones in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on.
So right now we'll have, of course, all of our audience and around the world tuning in via Facebook Live, and then after the show is finished broadcasting, they'll be able to see it on YouTube. And for those who tend to like to consume this sort of thing via podcast, it'll be next few days via podcast as well. So lots of different ways for people to tune in.
That's right.
Right on. All right. So do I have permissions now?
Not yet. Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Well, while we're waiting, Mark, for the movie 12 Strong, did you get to pick the lead actor? Because that seems like a pretty good get, getting Chris Hemsworth to play you.
Well, as I tell everyone, it is a true story. Right? So my wife reminds me how much, and as do other people, of how much Chris looks like me. So it was a natural choice. But much respect to him and the other actors that portrayed my teammates in that mission. But it's not every day they make a movie about special forces.
You should really be Mark. You should just be like, Chris, you're welcome. I mean, that's just all you got to say.
Well, it's always nice when they do a military movie, and it's I'm not a military guy, but it seemed that they got a lot of the technical details correct, because it's always you kind of roll your eyes when you see a military movie and maybe a guy's kind of firing his rifle from the hip or just kind of doing silly things that you just kind of take you out of the movie. But I felt watching that I was kind of engaged the entire time, and certainly more than a few moments where it was raising the heart rate for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's I've watched it a few times, and it is still emotional for my teammates and my family and I to watch. We are so humbled that, again, it's almost surreal when you realize they are trying to portray myself or my teammates and our family in that film. So we unfortunately, we did not participate in it fully as the consultants. But let's get into some other things now here, since I believe the guys gave me permissions now.
Yep. See if you can go ahead and share now.
So I just click on desktop.
Mm-hmm.
All right, hang on.
This is the Zoom experience that everyone is going through right now, working remotely. It's a steep learning curve and a quick learning curve.
So we got it coming up here.
Fantastic.
So, John, you're smoking the Churchill tonight?
I am. This is my first experience with the Churchill. I'm a big fan of classic sizes, and I got to say the Churchill is kind of hitting me exactly where I live. This is fantastic, Bobby. Great job.
Just to let you know, that one they make the least of, because it takes the longest leaves to roll.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
So the Corojo tobacco that we grow on the farm, Corojo is a smaller leaf, so they can't make as many Churchills as they can the Toros and Robustos.
So are we up?
We are
Yeah.
up.
See it.
Okay. All right. So again, as I said, appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about our story here. But all of you are old enough to remember that horrific day, September 11th, 2001, while most of America was staring at that smoldering pile of rubble and wondering what was going to happen next. Members of the special operations community, the military, the intelligence agencies were all scrambling to find out who had attacked us and what could be done. And an unprecedented strategy was put forth by then the CIA director, George Tenet, to match teams of CIA paramilitary officers with teams of Army Special Forces, Green Berets like mine. I wanted to share with you maybe this little known photo. That is ground zero, just hours after that had happened. Has anybody seen this photo before?
I think I've seen something similar. Maybe not.
You're right. There's something similar, and that's what I want to point out. So, the guy at the top of that ladder is has become a good friend of ours and of mine, my family, and the other folks at American Freedom Distillery. That is NYPD Emergency Services Unit retired detective Rich Miller. Now, Emergency Services Unit, those guys, Rich and his team, were not on duty that day, but they responded and ran into that dust cloud and were digging down under the layers of rubble looking for survivors. And when they came out, Richie and his teammates taking a break in a schoolhouse nearby, recognized we need to put up a rally point. And they asked permission and got that American flag. And in a very impromptu ceremony right there atop the pile, that's Richie at the top of the ladder. What he's leaning against is the mast, I'm told, the communications tower that was on top of the North Tower as that building pancaked down. So I just wanted to point that out, that my teammates and I were deeply inspired by these stories of average American citizens and first responders and everything that they had gone through on that horrific day. I want to share with you, I believe, is it all right to share? This is the 12 Strong movie trailer.
Yeah.
Has everybody seen that already, or we can?
Yeah, and I don't think the audio is going to come through correctly, but.
All right, we'll move on.
Okay.
I can encourage people to watch that on their time. It is the 12 Strong movie trailer. So here you can see that image. There's definitely a likeness.
It's like looking in a mirror, really.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like looking in a mirror. That's what my wife reassures me.
For those in our audience who are looking to watch the movie, you can rent it on Amazon Prime right now. If you're fortunately in Canada, you can actually still watch it on Netflix. You don't have to pay anything other than your Netflix subscription. So that's two good places to check it out.
Well, I saw last week Paramount Channel had it on TV multiple times throughout the week. So it was incredible to see that now on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm thirsty. Let's get into
there you go.
Let's get into something. So I'm going to talk about I don't know how many of you have one of our premium bottles of our straight bourbon whiskey. We'll get into pouring a little bit of that. It's all of you guys have our straight bourbon?
No, I think most of us have the small batch.
Okay. All right. Well, our straight is one of our most recent offerings. It is a double gold award winner at the San Francisco Spirits Festival. We use a number 4 char on all of our barrels. They are American white oak that we get out here in Missouri. It's one of my favorites. People ask me, what's your favorite of our 4 offerings of bourbon? And I always answer the question with, do you have children? And which one is your favorite child? You love all of them equally, and sometimes you love more than others. But, as we joke about, who's your favorite kid for the day,
Oh, yeah.
For me, I like this one. It can be, neat or on the rocks as it is, or it makes excellent cocktails. And we're really pushing to get that into more saloons and restaurants as they open across America.
Do you have a favorite cocktail that you tend to pivot to on that, Mark?
Yeah, for me on this one, it is several. It's an old fashioned, and we're getting some of the establishments in Tampa are starting to use our Horse Soldier Bourbon maple syrup. In the old fashions, and you can find that online at our horsesoldierbourbon.com, or you can come over to St. Petersburg to the American Freedom Distillery, as we're calling it now, the Urban Still House by Horse Soldier. We're 4 blocks west of the Tropicana Rays Stadium. You can come over there and come check us out in the retail shop. It is open now in the retail store. You can buy bottles there, or your maple syrup and some T-shirts and some other things. But that is really taken off with different saloons and restaurants using our maple syrup mixed in with that old-fashioned cocktail. In the summer heat, though, the best cocktails, I think, are either the Basil Smash or a Whiskey Mule mixed with this premium straight. Any questions about that right now?
I think we'll probably get into some of the technical questions for you after we go through the lineup.
There we go. So on September 14th, I was notified that my teammates and I were going to be the first deployed out of our Special Forces unit. We didn't really know what that mission was going to be, but we began to prepare immediately. There were so many questions that could not be answered. And we let our chain of command know someone's got to be sent in on the ground, and we're the team to do this. So that is an original photo of our 12-man team in a tent alongside an air base in the former Soviet Republic of Uzbekistan, a then secret location.
Mark, which one are you in that picture?
I'm the handsome guy, first one on the left in the front row.
All right, yeah.
But,
Now, I noticed in the forescreen there, someone has had the brilliant intelligence to pack some toilet paper, and I'm guessing that guy got some extra props from the team for that.
Yeah. There obviously that's special mission equipment, along with some bourbon and some vodka and $1 million in cash. So yeah. I promised my wife she was going to marry a millionaire. We're still working on that someday. But there was just so little known about it. There was immense political pressure to do something. They had to get someone in on the ground. And our team let them know, send me, send us. But quite frankly and candidly, they did not expect us to survive. If we did survive, they didn't expect to see us for up to 6 months. That mission was to conduct unconventional warfare. Specifically, we were to work alongside a CIA team, and we were to insert by helicopter into northern Afghanistan and link up with some different Afghan militia leaders that had been identified as fighting in armed rebellion, armed resistance against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. So our mission was to go in there, link up with them, see if we could work with them, and to raise an army.
At 0200 hours, the unarmed MH-47 drops ODA 595.
I'm going to share this little DoD video about that insertion with you.
He is known as a brutal warlord who has made and broken alliances with many factions. What will the morning bring? The answer comes in a burst of hoofbeats.
First, 20 horsemen came galloping up. They're armed to the teeth, looking pretty rough. Heavy beards, your typical Soviet small arms. It's what they possessed: light machine guns, AK-47s, RPGs, and about 10 minutes behind them, another 30 horsemen arrived with General Dostum.
To their relief, they receive a warm welcome and follow the horsemen to Dostum's headquarters, a 4-hour ride deep into the mountains. Only one member of ODA 595 is an experienced rider.
It was an incredible, I mean, we were going up stuff that, a foot wide, you're 1,000 feet up on a cliff that you knew if you fell, you were dead.
This was our first chapter in the Wild Wild West events that we would participate in every day.
So that was a little screen video clip from a Department of Defense case study that was done in 2002, 2003 about my team's mission. But here's the real magic of what our team did, was to bring 4 different resistance groups, 4 different ethnic factions together. We met with each of their leaders separately, along with our CIA teammates, and we got these different leaders to realize they had some common ground, and they were much stronger if they would unite together to fight against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda extremists. That was the Uzbeks, the Tajiks, the Hazaras, and some of the local Pashtuns in northern Afghanistan. So, over 23 days on horseback and uniting those 4 different ethnic factions together, we started with about 300 militia fighters on horseback the first day. And a little over 2.5 weeks later, with rallying those leaders around them, we had nearly 3,000 fighters rallied around General Dostum. 2,500 of them were on horseback, and about 500 of them were light infantry. With bringing in Commander Atta and Commander Moakek of the other 2 factions, my team was already dispersed across the countryside supporting General Dostum and his subordinate commanders. So we got to get a couple more special forces teams in on the ground to help them. And so when those other 2 teams of Americans came in, that militia force grew then on up to 5,000 militia fighters in that northern area, working together to coordinate our actions to liberate the key city of Mazar-e-Sharif, a city of several 100,000 people. This is what we were going up against. We had horsemen and light Soviet weapons, machine guns and rocket grenade launchers against thousands of these Taliban and Al-Qaeda extremists that were armed with former Soviet equipment, tanks, artillery pieces, anti-aircraft guns, and yes, even that multiple rocket launcher that they surprised us with after we've been on the ground at a key battle just short of liberating the city of Mazar-e-Sharif. So they do depict that in the screen or in the film, although there are some differences in the reality. But yes, we did attack and destroy a rocket launchers that had surprised us in that pass. We had an aerial armada of every manner of inter-service aircraft overhead. We had B-52s, Air Force and Navy, Marine Corps pilots coming off of 2 aircraft carriers. We had Air Force pilots coming out of the Gulf Coast countries. They would drop ordnance for us during, day or night. But then we had cargo aircraft coming in every night, dropping lethal and non-lethal aid, humanitarian aid, medical supplies. Just an incredible logistics effort to support my small team of Americans on the ground and the handful of other special forces teams at that time. We're talking less than 50 people on the ground.
And that was a photo of you, correct, Mark?
That was me. That was another video.
Yeah.
That was another video taken from the movie about the portrayal of a message I got from then that was conveyed through our chain of command 8 days after I was on the ground, and wanting to know when we were going to achieve more strategic effects. And I realized all the reports we had been sending up were not clearly painting the picture well enough. And at the end of a day, in an impromptu battle, as I got back to my teammates late at night, I got this message. I was a little tired. I was a little hungry and exhausted. And I got this message that basically said, when are you going to get off your ass and get to the city of Mazar-e Sharif? And this, remember, I'm like, wait a minute, you said 6 months. You know, we've been on the ground a little over a week, and we were inserted nearly 80 miles from that city. And, so I wrote a pretty candid report that has become kind of famous that basically started with, I'm advising a man in how to employ horse-mounted cavalry and light infantry in the attack against tanks and armored vehicles. So this is kind of unprecedented. You know, it hasn't been done since the invention of the modern machine gun, basically. So it was pretty candid. I was told the next day I needed to clean up my language, and it helped them to better understand what we faced. So in honor of that, let's talk about our next one. This is our small batch bourbon. This is our signature small batch, is called 7 to 8 barrels that are hand selected and blended together for taste consistency. Then we bring it down to 95 proof. We do that in honor of my Special Forces team that was known as Operational Detachment 595. So that's why the little small homage of having it at 95 proof. So it is a high wheat. It is a high wheat bourbon. Again, this is a favorite. You know, we wouldn't, you know, we want to maintain our reputation of, you know, we're not going to sell what we wouldn't ourselves drink and enjoy every day. So we are very proud of all of our bourbon, and this one in particular. Again, it's Missouri White Oak. It's a number 4 char. On the nose of it, you can get a little more caramel, a little honey smell, perhaps. I have to tell you straight up, I'm not very good at nosing them anymore. I just know what they taste like and what I like to drink. So, propose a toast to everyone here that's on this, and I appreciate again the opportunity to share a little bit about this story and this brand, and share one of our small batch bourbon cocktails with you.
Slanja.
Cheers.
So
Mark, that's the one that we're all drinking right now. We paired the American cigars with the small batch, and we did a little special at coronacigar.com where people were able to buy that bottle with 5 American cigars. I know a lot of, you're not in, how many states are you guys in now with Horse Soldier?
We're in 9 states now. It's been incredible. We're only in our 2nd year of distribution, and we hit 20,000 cases sold this last January. We had timed the initial release with the movie 12 Strong coming out, and a lot of industry professionals have been helping us along the way with this and advising us. But we're in Florida predominantly, with our headquarters there over in St. Pete. We're in Indiana and Texas. We're in Nevada for folks out in Las Vegas. We're in California. We're in Virginia. We're in New York. And I'm very proud that as of last February here, just a few months ago, we went into Kansas, which is my home state, and we went into the state of Kentucky. And it's just out here in Kansas, we're having a phenomenal launch, and the momentum just continues to pick up out here in this state. So those are the 9 states we're currently in. Folks can also go to our horsesoldierbourbon.com, and we've got through the pandemic here, you know, we keep trying to improve our fighting position, right? So we did a little revamp of our website and some other things as well, but we now have a where to buy page, and it's got all of the package stores, liquor stores in those 9 states, as well as the military exchanges that we're also in. The Navy has us in about 19 locations, mostly on the East Coast, but across the entire nation and on the West Coast. The Coast Guard has got us currently in about 8 locations, and then the Army Air Force Exchange down in Florida has got us. But I know we've worked with Mr. Newman and his team to help do some promotions in a number of stores matching our bourbon with your cigars, and we're very proud of that. And we look forward to doing that again. But HorseSoldierBourbon.com, where to buy, and that'll depict all the stores that we're trying to keep up with that. Now, it's tough to get some of the on-premise locations like Davidoff's and others to keep up with that. But you mentioned Burns restaurants, and we're really trying to get into everyone's favorite restaurants. That's where I need your listeners' help. Is if we're distributed in a state that you live in, please ask for Horse Soldier Bourbon at your favorite restaurant or saloon.
So you're in every one of the Corona cigars in Orlando too. And John, did you get your bottle up there in Canada from us?
Sort of. We have our underground of making things work.
I like it.
Enough said.
All right, so Mark, we got some of your whiskey smuggled in there because John's in Canada, and I didn't know how the hell I was going to get it to him, but I guess Aaron figured it out, or somebody did.
We make it work.
Where there's a will, there's a way. So.
We've had, even in our first year here, we've had people from England and South Africa and Middle Eastern countries and Central America. Where else? South America, but Asia, that already are hitting us up wanting to buy our bourbon and represent us in countries abroad. And we're like, hey, we're craft distillery. We're working on getting a foothold here in the state of Florida and across the United States first. So,
Mark, I'm embarrassed. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying I'm embarrassed. I'm in North Carolina. We got Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, and we got to get it up here. So whatever I can do to help.
I've been working on it. I appreciate that. We are trying to get us into the Fort Bragg AAFES Exchange. I've had some great conversations with the managers there at the Class 6, and we're working on it. Right now, AAFES has approved us to expand, and we do have a plan. I'm our military exchange coordinator, and I do have a plan to get us into more of the Army exchange locations. But we, like our Green Beret military history, we're having to fight village to village, store to store in these different states until AAFES we can prove enough sales performance. Hopefully they'll pick us up more broadly in their stores. But
I'll chime in real quick. So Merrick has done a fantastic job. Merrick's over there in Tampa, and he's come over to Orlando. We've done some work with the brand too, and getting it on premise is key in getting people to understand the story.
Yeah,
because there's a ton of craft distilleries out there and a lot of bourbon out there right now, but you guys, I don't think anybody can have the affinity for a brand like people have for Horse Soldier when they understand the guys involved and what you guys did for the country. So we'll do everything we can for you, and I think you guys are going to be fantastic.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I'm with you. This is one of those brands that, not to be too patriotic, but and this isn't on you, Mark. This should be in every 50 states. Every state should be requesting this. I mean, North Carolina especially.
Well, we'll get there. I know we will eventually in North Carolina, but that first step is going to be there at Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
We're definitely on track to grow and scale. The biggest, we always jokingly tell everybody, the number one ingredient to making bourbon is, right? It's money.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, you have to, everybody asks, well, when's the barrel ready? When are you going to pour? And it's just when the barrels are ripe. And, no small feats of what Mark and all of our careers and what some of the guys have accomplished. We wanted to do the same thing in the bottle. And, we wanted to make sure just like how much this story and the heritage of our brand and the company resonates with everybody else, we wanted the bourbon just to do the same. And that's why when Mark said we're award winning, you know, some of the guys jokingly, they're very humble and kind to say this, but they always joke that our bourbon's won more awards in their career, which I can't imagine that, but we're on track of doing that every single competition. And you know, all the mentors that we've had that coached us, that told us to enter in these you know, San Francisco, the New York World Spirits competitions. We've had nothing but complimentary, you know, about the bourbon, and it's been, you know, something that we're really proud of, and we wanted to make sure that when you hear the story, it's great, but when you hear the bourbon, it's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This small batch is, you know, I talked about the straight was a double gold winner from the San Francisco Spirits Festival. This small batch bourbon also won a medal out there as well. And then a month later, we entered the New York Spirits Festival, and the small batch bourbon and our barrel strength bourbon took the higher awards on the East Coast. So we dominated on the West Coast with two of our offerings, and then a month later it switched. The other two dominated in New York. So there, as I tell people, there's no bad choices here. You know, just pick one. It's what do you like to drink, and and go for it. But we'll roll on here just a little bit. So the guy on the upper right there, that is Chief Warrant Officer Bob Pennington. He's portrayed in the movie 12 Strong by Michael Shannon.
All
right. We get asked often, you know, how many surgeries he had and how did he walk again? Well, that's because of Horse Soldier Bourbon. It got him up and going. But, or perhaps Bob was never blown up. Anyway.
So was Bob injured though? What, did he hurt his back in real life or no?
In real life, yes. Bob hurt his back.
Yeah.
Yes, that was true. But the scene that they depict of the suicide bomber was not accurate in that aspect. But try explaining that to a Hollywood movie producer and director.
Right.
That suicide bombers were not in vogue until about 2005, 2006, you know, coming out of Iraq. But,
I'm surprised all of you didn't have back problems for life after 3 weeks on a horse. I mean, that's no joke.
We have. To talk a little bit about that, the guys did an incredible job learning how to ride. I grew up on a Kansas cattle ranch and rodeoed through high school and college. I had one other sergeant that had ridden horses in his youth, but as we joke about, for the rest of the guys, the other 10 guys on our team, the training they had was going to a county fair maybe and riding the little ponies in a circle. You know, it didn't quite cut it. You know, in 2001, none of our special operators were riding horseback. So it was just by pure fate that I had that background, and our team was placed into that situation. So the guys
Mark,
did an incredible job learning how to ride horseback in combat day and night. That first move was about 4 hours going up into the mountains on a half wild animal that wants to kick you, bite you, stomp you, and you're concerned about the enemy around us. Can I trust the ally that I just met minutes or hours ago in that situation? You know, so many things we're figuring it out right then and there.
So Mark, real quick on the horse riding thing, did the people above that were coordinating all this, did they know about your experience being a professional rodeo cowboy and stuff? Or was that
I was just to clarify, I competed up to the collegiate level. I did not compete at the professional level on the rodeo circuit, but just ranch roping and competing up through that college level. But no, they weren't really aware of that. None of us were until less than 48 hours prior to our insertion, when we were first able to talk directly with our CIA teammates, and we made a phone call in to talk briefly with General Dostum. And two questions. Will you welcome Americans, or just a couple questions. Will you welcome an American Special Forces team? Can you provide transportation for them? And that was yes. Be prepared to ride some horses. And, can you provide some meals for them? Yes. In reality, that was the horses that we rode, and it was one traditional meal of a handful of rice and maybe some goat or sheep that was boiled. So just incredible. There's so much to this mission, the challenges that had to be overcome, the working conditions. We're running on little sleep, one meal a day, and we're at altitude, and it's winter is coming on. It's fall in the Hindu Kush region. We're talking mid-October of 2001.
Yeah.
We were initially up around 8,000 feet elevation and then worked our way down through some valleys, but you're burning a lot of calories. You're getting, you're sleeping in the snow, on the ground, or in the best caves that you could find, an Afghan Holiday Inn Express. But the result of that was, in that first 23 days, by the time we come down out of the mountains with this army and through all of this chaos and combat that we managed to survive, is our uniforms were just hanging off of our bodies. We'd lost 25 to 30 pounds of body weight in about 30 days. And the guys did an incredible job. I can't say enough about my teammates and the other special operations and CIA veterans that were there with us. As well as our Afghan counterparts. But so that was kind of who we were as we transitioned. We were some of those first teams into Afghanistan, but then a year later, our same team and a handful of others that had helped to topple the Taliban regime were asked to spearhead similar operations into Iraq. And we went on throughout that career that we managed to survive. And so that's how, as we finished that career, the six of us that are former Special Forces veterans, John and Scott and Rob and Tyler, and then Bob and I from the Horse Soldier team. But our family continues to expand. We've been able to bring in several other guys from our Special Forces careers to help work with us. And that's been great.
So Mark, did you have a tour in Iraq later on after Afghanistan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother served, and when you talked about, Jeff talked about like the suicide bomber. I know my brother, he had an experience like that, I think outside of like Kirkuk, when he was in Baghdad or outside in Iraq. So yeah, I know. Yeah.
We all went back multiple times.
Yeah.
To both Iraq or Afghanistan. But so there's been movies, that were made about us. The 12 Strong movie. We've had a documentary film, Emmy nominated, called The Legion of Brothers. That's The Legion of Brothers. It's on Hulu or Amazon, and it's a very powerful film that 90 minutes review of my team's mission, but then also Scott Neal and Billy Howell's mission that was very different from ours. And then it portrays a third Special Forces team in that 90-minute documentary. Again, that's called Legion of Brothers.
I recommend it. Hey, Mark.
Yes, sir.
We saw it a couple months ago. And it is. I recommend everybody take a look at Legion of Brothers. It is very, very well told. But also, Mark, are you going to talk about where the labels, where the?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I am. Yep.
You talk about that. Okay.
Yep.
The bottle. Okay.
The bottle. We will. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But so there's been some books done about us. The Horse Soldiers book, another book called The Last Warlord. Bob Pennington and I, my chief warrant officer, we're actually working on. We've been encouraged over the years to write our own book. So we're working now to get that completed, and we intend to have that out next summer in time for the 20th anniversary.
Nice.
Oh wow.
There's so much more to this story. Just in summary, I'll say, the Hollywood version 12 Strong depicts that first roughly 23 days in combat on horseback. It stopped short of the liberation of Mazar-i Sharif. There, we actually had a major battle that afternoon downtown in the middle of the city. And we called in an airstrike and defeated some foreign fighters that refused to surrender. But what I liken to is that was the Wild West phase. But then we transitioned into the Mad Max phase. We got ATVs, quad runners, and we had 4x4 pickup trucks and SUVs. And our militia cavalry on horseback no longer needed the horses. They now had the captured Soviet tanks and equipment. And we went on for another 45 days of combat operations in that kind of mode across the 6 northern provinces of Afghanistan, which our teams are credited with liberating and becoming the catalyst to help topple the Taliban regime in an unprecedented event.
So Mark, did you move into like Balk and like the whole northern areas before like moving down with?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were in Faryab, Samangan province, Sarapol, Jalsjan area, and Balk and Kunduz.
Yeah, because I know, and then I know there's other teams. Just because I mean, I've read up a lot on this, just with like Kill Bin Laden by Dalton Fury and like Jawbreaker and all those, and I just know that there's others that came in through like Kandahar, and then you guys then moved on Kabul before going to the Tora Bora, and then like Herat in the west and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The war kind of moved on as we stabilized that northern area, and we're kind of cleaning up the remnants of the Taliban and Al Qaeda, trying to run them to ground. But then humanitarian aid and allies came in, and the main effort of the war shifted more to the east and south, where you're referring to, and other incredible special forces teams went in there and did incredible missions in there as well.
Because I mean, and you even talked about it, and it's mentioned. It's just all these special forces groups talk about how, you know, Donald Rumsfeld and even just Washington D.C. were fully unaware of how capable Green Berets, Delta Force, Rangers, and so forth are of doing what.
It definitely showcased the entire special operations capability of what could be done with minimal, small, light footprint by working alongside allies to help them get at these very tough, complex problems.
Yeah.
So but that's what special forces specializes in, is to get at these problems. When we're assigned a mission, it is typically to work by, with, or through a local partner or an ally. So these guys have to be a diplomat, culturally sensitive. Green Berets are taught languages as well when they go into work with these guys. And like in the case of my team, we split our team up into 3-man cells. And these 3 sergeants or 3 members of our team would be split off with an Afghan commander that had between 300 to 750 militia fighters. And we dispersed, in the case of our team, we dispersed them in other provinces. You know, they were a 6 to 24-hour horse ride between each other. I know because one of my sergeants and I rode back and forth between these units. So we had 4 of them split up. So that's still kind of unprecedented. But to put us into 3-man teams is something that harkens back to our Special Forces lineage from World War II, when the Office of Strategic Services organized 3-man teams that parachuted into France to help organize the French resistance. And raised them up to fight against the German divisions and protect the Normandy beachheads. So that was kind of who we were. To talk about that again, some of the books, The Last Warlord, Horse Soldiers. We're writing our own book that we should have out in the next year. We're working with award-winning author Jim DeFelice, who wrote American Sniper and a number of other prominent books.
Yeah.
But, and then, as we talked about, there's the documentary film Legion of Brothers, and then the Hollywood version 12 Strong. So as we transitioned from that, you know, I went back overseas as a contractor and worked in both Iraq and Afghanistan a number of years, and as did Scott. And we started to see our brothers that we served with, there were more of us killed working as contractors than when we had been in uniform. But that was a critical role that we all felt compelled to continue to serve in. But as we decided to transition, John, Scott, and Elizabeth took a ride up through Yellowstone. I'm told that there's about 100 permits a year that you can get and take a horseback ride that transits the entire south to north across the Yellowstone Park. And it's a trip I hope to take someday.
Gosh.
But Scott and Elizabeth and John made that trek. And as they finished there, they were talking about the business of it. It'll come. What's it going to be? Well, we're not sure yet. What's that business going to be? But as they finished, and they stopped over in Driggs, Idaho at a craft distillery, and a mom and pop from a family gave them a tour, and they realized just the passion and the everything that went into that. So they decided maybe craft distilling is what we should do. And they made a trip and visited a bunch of distilleries on the way back. And then they got us together and said, hey, we think craft distilling. And so I got invited into it, others, and we just, hey, called another friend. Hey, what do you think? Do you want to be involved in this? And so that's where the genesis of American Freedom Distillery came. John Coco is our CEO, and has just done a phenomenal job launching this brand. But we had to learn about it. It was like learning a new language, right? So we had to take some trips. We went to Havana, Cuba, to learn how to make rum. We went to Scotland to learn how to make some scotch and work alongside some former British special operations soldiers that I'd worked with, who were trying to revamp an old scotch brand in Scotland. It's called Wolfburn. And it's an incredible scotch. But we went all the way over there, visited them for several weeks, rolling up our sleeves, learning about the whole process. And as we were, some of the others on our team went through the bourbon trail. And as we're reviewing our notes, 3 things kept coming back to us. You got to have a great story. Well, we think we got that. You had to have great packaging because of marketing reasons with ladies are the fastest growing demographic, but what is it, like 60 or 70% of the purchases in a liquor store are made by the women of that household. And then most importantly, you had to have a great juice that goes into that bottle, because they'll drink you once or twice out of, the veteran sympathy or whatever. But we want them to come back and drink it 3-4 times. We want that to become their favorite drink. And so we had to learn about all the ingredients and all natural ingredients in the process that goes into that. So we rolled up our sleeves and studied and took some courses, took some training, and met with all these different mentors, and we're just a sponge trying to learn about this industry. We're still learning as we go, no doubt. But I'm very proud to say, I think we're over 18 employees now, and we are distributed in the 9 states. We're in Texas, Florida, Indiana, Virginia, New York, Nevada, California, Kansas, and Kentucky. And then in today's marketing age with HorseSoldierBourbon.com, we can ship to 30-some states. And that's just incredible. I don't have to have people on the ground. I need ambassadors. So everything we learned in our military career and special operations, we are putting to the test every day in this business, because I have to work by, with, or through, not militias like we did during our career or coalition partners, but I got to work by, with, or through distributors, distributor reps. I got to work with other business leaders and other businesses to find where we have common ground, like your great cigars and like your great establishment there at Davidoff's. So we're just trying to form partnerships and lasting relationships with people that have mutual values and mutual interests. So,
who's easier to work with, Jeff or the Northern Alliance? I'm just kidding.
Come on now.
I know. I love you.
Mark, if everyone heard, every American and Canadian family heard your story, male and female, they would be ashamed to be caught with anything without a bottle of American Freedom Distillery Horse Soldier Bourbon. And as Jeff is really into the Jeff Borysiewicz, everyone loves the story, and no one, George Dickel's been dead forever. I know Jack Daniels is not a bourbon. I know but no one. There's no face with these people. You and Bob and Rob and are the face.
Yeah.
And I know we talked a little bit about this, that the potential that you have is incredible.
Well, we're getting after it every day. I'm so honored and proud to be a part of this company, and we're very blessed. We're very fortunate coming through this pandemic and everything. I know America is on the rise. People want to come out again, and we hope that they will seek out our brand and commemorate the special events in their life, the tough days that they have had, or the victories, or the defeats, but get them to regroup and recognize resilience that we have as American citizens and Canadian citizens, people all over the world as human beings, to regroup and stand up and get after it again every day.
Mark,
Bobby, you really touched on it. There's a lot of emotions with this brand, and there's a sense of pride in being American with it. That's wonderful, and I think you're absolutely correct with that.
Listen,
There's good, Bobby.
Go ahead. No, we do an event. I know this is a public forum, and we went to Mark and Rob Schaefer and Veterans Days in November, and we went to ABC Liquor and said, look, we want to run a promotion. You buy any bottle of Horse Soldier Bourbon. There's 3 varieties, and you get a free Brickhouse. You get 2 free Brickhouse double Connecticut cigars. The wrapper happens to be a Connecticut shade and Connecticut broadleaf binder. But anyway, and worked well. We're going to do it again. We'll continue to do it until Mark says no mas, no more. Mark, did you talk about? So I had to leave for a minute. Did you talk about the bottle?
Let's get to that. Let's just get right onto it. But in just one moment, as I talked about, we've had a fast-growing brand. Sold 20,000 cases in our second year, so we've had to get some superhero help in there. That's Thor himself came down to help us bottle up one time. And as many of you know, it's some powerful stuff. That's our barrel strength. It'll take a superhero down.
That's fantastic.
Our barrel strength is what we're going to talk about next, and then I'm going to talk about the bottle, Bobby.
Okay.
So, do any of you have barrel strength there?
I think this is Bobby's drinking.
This is
think
Bobby's
Bobby does.
strength. That's right.
Mark,
That's
you need
right.
to put that photo of Thor passed out by the barrel out there. That's fantastic.
So this is our barrel strength bottle. It is a high wheat, again, just like our small batch. It is award winning from the New York Spirits Festival as well as San Francisco. But this bottle is going to come out between 110 to 117 proof, just as Mother Nature intended. And so the bottle I have here is 115 proof. But
something that's really
this
about a true barrel strength or cask strength in the bourbon world, but you got to realize is no one barrel is ever the same. So we have to hand write every single bottle and proof because it's that constant fluctuation. So Bobby has 112. Mark, I believe, said he had 112. My bottle that I have right now is 111.
Yeah. Now mine is 115. One I've got here at home is 115. But they'll see them in stores, so don't be confused by that. But as Merrick explained, they'll come out somewhere between 110 and 117. So it is, but don't let the proof, get you down. It's not for the weak or faint of heart. Go for that taste. And we find this in a lot of tastings that we do if we lay it out there, and that goes even with the small batch, this 95 proof, of let customers taste it and tell you which one they like of the three. Whether
So
that's a
within
hot,
the, I'm sorry, Mark.
Go ahead.
Well, so within the barrel strength, are these single barrels that you guys bottle, or are you guys still blending them?
They are still blended
Okay.
as they come out, but they are cast strength. We do not
Right.
proof them down.
Gotcha.
Those are kind of like the honey pig barrels, so we have to make
Yeah.
sure we have an abundance of like 111, 112 proof before we pour them. But the biggest thing is the utmost quality that before we ever put them out and say, hey, that's going to be a cask strength, because almost like imagine like a full body wine. You know, you want that profile, you want a lot of that kind of flavor that just kind of gets you, right? So that's what we did with the barrel strength, the reserve. We want you to get the full, you know, proof of the barrel, but we want you to have the profile. We also want you to have that mouthfeel as well as the mash bill kind of all integrated into one. Typically, I like the barrel strength. That's my favorite one. That's my go-to. I really like that. Just add it on a nice cube like Bobby did. And what it does is imagine just kind of an accordion or just a flower that's about to blossom. As that cube mellows that barrel strength out, you slowly get all the different significant notes from the barrel to the mash bill and the profile. And it opens up really nicely. Even though being a high proof, it doesn't have that kind of kick you in the teeth.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is another favorite of mine. Just as Merrick said, I like it on a big rock, let it set and chill for just a little bit. But
So real quick on this barrel strength, Merrick, we're supposed to be selecting a single barrel of the barrel strength of Horse Soldier for Corona Cigar. You want to explain that to everybody what we're doing on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Mark kind of told you guys a little bit about the background, we've been at this for quite some time. And one of the big things that has been in demand is a barrel program. And as this has been a learning curve for us, we've been significant enough to find roughly about 25 barrels in our rick house that are kind of just the most just premium, just top-notch barrels. Right now, I believe it's a 13-year-old, and it's kind of folding over into a 14 now because we're still doing. As you will know, I talked with our distributor. Hopefully, you guys will be able to do your barrel pick. I believe maybe in the next week or so, and it's going to knock your socks off. I will tell you that. Again, it's constantly about the quality of the bourbon and the profile. And that 13-year-old meets every single bit of it. And, the nice thing is when you come in at, that number one, as a bourbon aged that long, and the proof and what it yields, it's going to be, you get your money's worth out of it. And that's the thing. We want to be able to be a competitor with all the top-notch brands. And, again, it goes back to our heritage. We want to put the best product out there. And, we don't read. We listen to audiobooks. So one of the cool things, like what Mark was talking about, the history of bourbon, the very first legal distillery in the United States was George Washington. And so it goes back to that kind of veteran, that veteran feel to it. And there's a great book or audiobook if you guys want to check it out. It's called Bullets and Bourbon or Bourbon and Bullets. I always get them mixed up, but it's kind of a great little historical fact about veterans transitioning and also about bourbon and how they kind of all coincide with one another.
So General George Washington also grew cigar tobacco. So he was a distiller and a farmer and growing tobacco. So we've got a barrel that we're picking out for the Horse Soldier. Hopefully we'll have those in our stores soon. We'll go through the barrel tastings and we'll make sure that we select it where we're pairing them up with the American cigars. So that's how we always go through our barrel picks, is how does it taste when you're pairing it with fine cigar tobacco. So hopefully we'll have that coming up in the near future and be adding that to our wide selection of single barrel offerings.
Jeff, how many bottles will that give you to sell?
Most of the times when we pull a barrel, they're anywhere between usually 180 on the low side to about 220, sometimes 240 on the high side, but most of the times 220, 230 bottles.
All right, Jeff. Jeff Borysiewicz. I'm going to give you, in front of God and everybody, I'm going to give you your first order. We've got a group of, we call them Cigar Band of brothers from around the country. Some of them are watching tonight. And I want you to, we're going to buy from you. They're coming in February of 2021, these guys. And there's a couple of women too. So save me 30. We want to buy, I'll give you my American Express when we get off. Save me 30 bottles. And we want, Mark, we want you to sign them all. And so that's that. Thank you.
What was that number again, Bobby?
Oh, okay. Oh,
It's a premium when you have to sign up. Remember that?
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I'm not like Bobby, but I have the Seth Geis Foundation. So whatever Bobby did for the Band of Brothers, just subtract one, and that goes to me. And then don't worry about signing. No.
All right. Well, Merrick, we got to complete that mission, so we'll get it done.
Yeah, we're
Roger that.
so three things. There's so much to this story, but there are three things that we try to distill it down to, and that's the authenticity of our brand and our background that we've talked about here. I want to touch on the America's Response Monument. That's an 18-foot tall bronze statue that is our logo. That's on the front of that bottle of a Special Forces soldier on horseback. It actually started as a small bronze. Thank you, Bobby. It started as a small bronze statue that was 18 inches tall that was made by equestrian sculptor Dow Bloomberg out of Louisville, Kentucky. And my team was honored to work closely with Dow to develop that image and provide more accuracy on the equipment and just the feel of being on a half-wild Afghan stallion on very rugged terrain going into combat. But that is now, that little statue became the America's Response Monument that overlooks the South Fountain of the National 9/11 Memorial in downtown Lower Manhattan there. And it honors the men and women of our Special Operations Task Force, the men and women of the intelligence services, of our naval and air forces that were all part of America's response to those horrific attacks of 9/11. But in going up to New York City, with making the friendships that we have had there with the first responders of New York City, from the fire department of New York to the NYPD and those incredible law enforcement officers, to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, they gifted us a chunk of World Trade Center steel. And we had that melted down and worked with the Lawrenceburg, Indiana steel workers to reforge that World Trade Center steel into the mold that shapes every one of these custom bottles as it goes through the line in that foundry. And I'm honored that we took a tour of the glass foundry up in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, to see how they made these custom bottles and to be able to provide a chunk of World Trade Center steel that shapes these bottles. Every one of these bottles, as I say, has been forged in fire, and it's a memorial to those that have served in whatever capacity, but it's a memorial and a tribute to you and your own personal life and overcoming the challenges and obstacles that you have throughout your life. And we hope that you'll pick Horse Soldier Bourbon to help celebrate those special occasions in your life.
It's a monument every American should go see too.
So, and there it is. I talked about that all-American aspect. It's tough to be an American brand in today's world, you know. But we're very proud of everything in this bottle made in America, from the grains that are harvested across the Midwest to then the wood that's on top of this bottle. So
that's an incredible story, Mark.
What I'm showing you here in this beautiful image, there's a couple other labels you'll see in there. You know, when we first came out with our small batch, we had a khaki paper label on it. And we since have depleted those bottles. They're no longer in production, but they were replaced with that small batch label, that brass label. And, you know, there were some marketing reasons behind that. As we went to an all metal label lineup, you know, people were paying and how do I say, getting customer feedback was, hey, we like the metal label. You know, so that was all these other factors that went into that, to have this all metal label lineup. So you'll notice there's a black label bottle. Now we're not going to taste that tonight, but that is our Commander Select. And I think you may have one of those there at Davidoff. Is that right? Do you carry Commander Select over there?
Yes, sir.
We do, and we've had several events at our Orlando store and at our Tampa store, and we have those. And also, we've sold a few of those.
Yeah.
During, matter of fact, Bobby, I think you were there when we were doing a Diamond Crown event with the Americans. So we have sold a few of those.
So I'll talk a little bit more about the Commander Select here in a little bit, but these bottles, as Bobby said, the custom glass has been forged by World Trade Center steel. It is not the metal label. The metal label is not World Trade Center steel, because we would run out of that. But every one of these bottles and the bottle molds are World Trade Center steel that shapes all of these bottles. So authentic, all-American, and then award-winning, as we talked about. And so there you go. You know, we got the double gold. Our Commander Select was a double gold award winner at San Francisco, as was our Premium Straight. So Merrick hit it already in summary. We joke about our bourbon offerings have won more awards than we did in our military careers. So those are the three things that we ask retailers or reps to try to impart quickly onto customers: authenticity, all-American brand, and award-winning. So this is a little video I want to share that you can also find on our Horse Soldier Bourbon YouTube channel. But it's a little bit about our bottles and how they're made.
Mark, the volume's not coming through.
Okay.
But the picture is.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm just gonna go ahead and stop that right there, because I want you to really see it and hear it. And I encourage you or other listeners to go to our Horse Soldier Bourbon YouTube channel that we have, and we have, I don't know, 8 or more videos on there, including a video that's just a couple minutes long about the making of our bottles and that World Trade Center steel aspect. So again, that's a Horse Soldier Bourbon YouTube channel. You can see some of our incredible brand videos, as well as videos about our products and some of the adventures we have had. So we've touched on it, but I want to talk about the Urban Still House that's over in St. Petersburg. It's going to open to the public here later in July, and we are so excited to finally have that done. It's gone from a vision, and you see some of the architects' depictions there, but we've taken a little bit of our tours and visits, our travels around the world, and things we liked in these different amazing distilleries that we've met. But we will have a craft distillery in there. We will make some clear spirits over there when that gets set up with our new still set coming in later this summer. but we intend to make clear spirits there. We'll make some vodka, some gin, and some rum. But we also have 3 saloon areas and a wood fire grill and restaurant. And we'll have an outdoor patio area. We're right off the Pinellas Trail at 2232 5th Avenue South in St. Petersburg. And it's about 4 blocks west of the Rays Stadium. We will have a tasting room. And I know Rob and the guys are making sure that we're going to have some cigars available to smoke outside on the patio there. And I suspect there may be an American cigar and some of your incredible cigar offerings as well over there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I've mentioned the horsesoldierbourbon.com. If you got some questions you want to reach out, you can get a hold of me at mark@horsesoldierbourbon.com. For your listeners on this event, I also, as they point them towards horsesoldierbourbon.com, I also want to give you the discount code of MN10. That's my initials, MN10. It's just amazing that in today's marketing, we can reach up to 30-some states through that online. And I encourage folks to come over to Davidoff's and purchase a bottle of our small batch or your favorite bourbon there and pair it up with their favorite cigar over there.
Mark, looks like you guys have a sailboat.
Yeah, I'll touch on that. We, kind of a servant's heart here as we continue to work with different nonprofit organizations. And one of those initially was the Warrior Sailing Foundation. And what that image is depicting there is a racing yacht called the Sergeant Reckless, named after a famous Marine horse, a mare actually, that was used during the Korean War. That was called Sergeant Reckless. But that is our black sail there with our white Horse Soldier logo. Scott and Rob and the guys actually sailed the Sergeant Reckless in a yachting competition from St. Petersburg to over to Mexico.
Oh, nice.
In an effort a couple years ago to break the sailing record. They broke the record, but unfortunately in the night of them closing into the Mexican coast, they blew out the foresail, and the second place vessel overtook them as they had to make underway repairs on that vessel and complete that mission, and then enjoy discovering some tequila and how tequila is made over in Mexico.
You should have popped some holes in their hull with some N4s. That way you would have won it. I didn't say that out loud. Did I say that? Was that live? No. You guys won it. You guys won it.
We'll do it again. We had fun with that. The first year we took, I don't have a picture on it here, but we took the Metolius, which we competed in the first St. Petersburg to Havana, Cuba sailboat race.
Oh, wow.
That hadn't occurred since 1953.
Wow.
They did that just a few years ago, and there were 80 vessels in it, and we were proud to participate in that. We had, as we joke about, we had twin outboard blenders. We were loaded up with lots of rum and spirits to help us accomplish that mission, but we learned a little lesson. We got becalmed 4 times on the way to Havana. And so what are you going to do when you're becalmed? The boat's not going anywhere. So we were drinking a little more than maybe our ration was planned. And we ran out of booze. Within a mile, we became becalmed within a mile of the finish line. And we were ready to jump ship and swim ashore. But we took second in that race. We're Army guys. And we had 18 of us on that sailing vessel, the Metolius, and we took second in that race. So we like to have some adventures, no doubt.
That's probably a good thing. I mean, Cuba probably thought, if they saw you, they probably thought you were invading for a second there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it's probably good he came in second. So
yeah. that was our, again, on our Horse Soldier Bourbon YouTube channel. There's some videos about our some of our adventures as well as our brand story. So I wanted to share this with you. Everybody recognizes what today is, right?
Well, it's after
June 11th.
June 6th,
It's after June
1944.
6th. That's right. So a year ago, on June 5th, I had the honor of organizing 20 of our Special Forces veterans built around the core team of American Freedom Distillery. And along with my two sons, who are depicted there, we went to Normandy, France. We wanted to honor the incredible World War II Special Operations veterans, as I mentioned, of the Office of Strategic Services, the other Special Operations units, the Rangers, that were all part of my personal military history, as well as several of our other teammates. But we wanted to parachute into Carentan, France, the morning of June 5th to honor these incredible World War II veterans, and particularly those veterans of the Special Operations that had parachuted into France in the days and weeks ahead of the Normandy invasion. We take our lineage from Special Forces and from the CIA, from the Office of Strategic Services. So
yeah,
I also want to point out that we had some special combat equipment. Those haversacks that you see there hanging just about our knees, perhaps you can get 5 bottles of bourbon into each of those to parachute that into France and share out with some of the other jumpers. And I will also want to thank again Mr. Bobby Newman, because they made us some special cigars that we took over there and jumped in, and we shared those out with the other French and European jumpers.
it's what the 101st and 82nd brought when they jumped. So,
So you said the volume wasn't working very good, so
Try turning your volume up, Mark.
woohoo!
We're in Palatka, Florida, and we're going to jump out of that aircraft today, a Kodiak, with our brothers in preparation of D-Day, 75th anniversary.
can you hear that all right?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
It's about another 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop it. Yeah, I just want to give you a little taste of that. Again, that's one of our videos on our Horse Soldier Bourbon YouTube channel about our Normandy trip last year. Merrick accompanied us. Merrick and my sons went through jump training up in Palatka, Florida, with the Round Canopy parachute team. And I'm so proud of Merrick and my sons and my teammates. We had 3 72-year-old Special Operations veterans that accompanied us.
That's
and we
fantastic.
represented every generation, military generation, from the Vietnam War to the current conflicts. Scott Neal's son, that's in the 82nd Airborne, jumped with us also. So here's just a photo of us on the drop zone. Again, on the left, that's Chief Pennington. And again, he's portrayed by Michael Shannon in the movie 12 Strong. He and I, along with Billy Howell and Sergeant Major Rick Lamb, that's a Ranger and Special Forces legend. He's in the Hall of Fame for both regiments. We jump mastered the first 2 historic C-47 aircraft that actually participated in the real event on the night of June 5th.
Jeez.
And it was it put chills through your body when I stood up and hooked my static line up to the original anchor line cable, and then checked the doors and made sure all of our jumpers were ready to safely exit that aircraft. And we did that in broad daylight. And I cannot imagine what those veterans, 76 years ago went through with the anti-aircraft fire coming up from the ground. And it was just so incredible to meet these incredible World War II veterans on the drop zones and share a moment with them. They challenged us. We talk about that a little bit. They challenged us. They're known as the greatest generation. But in talking with several of them, it was like, are you going to accept that? Or are you going to step forth and rise up to make your life or your community better? And it was so inspirational. We actually participated in another documentary film that's out on YouTube that's called Here Am I, Send Me. And that is a very powerful 40-minute documentary film that's about our team, Freedom Jumpers, and about some Ranger veterans from the Fort Lewis, Washington State area who did a free fall jump with one of their fallen Ranger platoon members with that Ranger's mother, a Gold Star mom. Wow. So our group of Special Forces veterans did a static line parachute jump, and then later that afternoon, the Ranger veterans did a free fall with that Gold Star mom, and we all jumped in some Horse Soldier Bourbon and shared that out along with those incredible cigars that Mr. Newman provided us, and it was incredible experience and incredible event. But I wanted to share a little bit about that with you all. And again, I encourage audience members to check out the YouTube video, Here Am I, Send Me.
Mark, I know you talked about like that, the greatest generation for the Americans that served in World War II. And this is kind of to you and to all the, the veterans who may be watching, but my grandfather served with Patton throughout World War II, Africa, Sicily, Italy, France, Normandy, Battle of the Bulge. And she meanwhile was an accountant. She was working for the military in Kansas at the time, but she had to say about the individuals who served and volunteered after September 11th that was also the greatest American generation for those who served. My brother enlisted 2004, but to you, she said that is also a great American generation to serve our country after September 11th. So,
well, I think that I thank her and I appreciate that, and we're just honored. I mean, I ask people, what would you do? What would you do right out on September 12th after our country's been attacked? This is what you've been trained for, and by the hand of God, our team was put in a position to do something about it. And just honored to have been a part of that in a small way and to serve alongside the men and women that I have in the special operations community. But there's going to be more great generations of Americans. You all well know we face incredible challenges right now in our country. And but I still firmly believe that flag in our country is a shining light and beacon to people all over the world. And we've got incredible allies from Canada, from Great Britain, our Australian and New Zealand partners that I've worked alongside with in combat or in other capacities as a contractor overseas. But it's still a beacon. And a lot of people want to come to America for that better life for them, their family, and their children. And I know we're a nation of immigrants. My family on both sides were immigrants, as most of us were. But there's certainly a place here for everyone. And but there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of things that have to be sorted out and overcome, as we full well know. So I know there's going to be more great generations to come yet. And I hope in those generations, they're drinking Horse Soldier Bourbon, because that's what we're trying to create is a legacy.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about that legacy that we're trying to build.
Since before we were a nation, even before we were Americans, warriors have come home from conflicts and made whiskey. tradition that continues to this very day is embodied by the founders of Horse Soldier Bourbon whiskey. Forged in fire, strength, resiliency, character. Impurities are burned away, and only the best remains. Horse Soldier Bourbon.
So I just wanted to share that little video. Again, it's a little teaser. That video is several more minutes long, but that can be found on our Horse Soldier Bourbon YouTube channel. This, it hung up, so I'm going to stop it. This last November or February, we secured purchase of several hundred acres of property in Somerset, Kentucky. And we are now reviewing proposals, and we are on a 3-year plan to construct and build a Horse Soldier Bourbon distillery and experience in southeastern Kentucky. And that will build a legacy for our families and our teammates to come and share Horse Soldier Bourbon, we hope, with the generations to come. So in 3 years, I invite you all to come visit us up on Lake Cumberland in southeastern Kentucky and visit the Horse Soldier Bourbon Distillery. Oh, one of the closing things I want to share with you before we open it up to some questions is, how many of you have been up to New York City to the America's Response Monument?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Not yet.
It's a powerful area, Mark. I mean, as you know, and to all who've been there.
Mark, it's like going to Arlington National Cemetery to me.
It is. It puts chills down my spine every time I go there. It does.
Yes.
That's a good way of putting it, Mark and Bobby. It's, you know, my grandfather's buried at Arlington, and he overlooks the Pentagon. And he served in World War II in Korea. My brother was in Iraq and so forth. But going to New York City and to where the World Trade Center Towers is a emotional experience.
Most definitely. It's you know, on September 11th, nearly 3,000 American and international citizens were murdered in those attacks. And to go down into that memorial now, and it's incredible. We work closely with the 9/11 Memorial. I've gotten to know those folks. We've spoke at some of their special events, but it put chills through my body every time I go in there. And in my opinion, every American and every citizen of the world should spend at least one visit to the 9/11 Memorial.
Yeah.
It is incredible to hear some of the sights and sounds and see some of those images of what those people experienced that day. And I pray we never have another attack like that anywhere, not just in America, but anywhere. But if I can get it to play. So last one I wanted to talk about there was our Commander's Select. We're not going to taste it tonight, but I encourage folks to come to Davidoff, come to your favorite liquor store in the 9 states that we're distributed in Texas, in Florida, in Indiana, in Nevada, in Virginia, New York, California, Kansas, and Kentucky. Go to your favorite store and ask them for a Commander's Select. The Commander's Select is a double gold award winner. It is going to come at barrel strength at 97 proof. And it is right now, what you see there on the right was the first series we did was 1,000 bottles. And the suggested retail price was $595. And we sold through it in nearly 6 months. So we've got the Commander Select version 2. That's the black label bottle. We still have bottles of that available. We only did 2,000 bottles. And it's a special commemorative edition with that beautiful box. It comes with a military challenge coin. And, but the portion of the proceeds of the sale of that bottle go directly to support the maintenance of the America's Response Monument in New York City. We support a number of charities. This year, our main charity, as I said in years past, it was the Warrior Sailing Foundation. This year, that main charity is the Healing Waters, that is helping to take veterans and help get them some support and some outdoor experience with fly fishing. But beyond that, we are very proud of the fact that I think that over the last 2 years, we have helped a range of charities, from Southwest Guide Dogs to veteran charities to children's charities to cancer, breast cancer and veterans charities, special operations veterans charities, first responders. But we are very proud of the fact that the live auction, or the auction of our bottles of Horse Soldier Bourbon, have helped raise over $400,000 in the last 2 years for this range of charities. And we are very proud of that.
Great. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic work.
That is fantastic.
That's kind of what I got for show and tell tonight. The last thing, I guess, or one of the things I would like to do is I'd like to propose a toast. And that toast is just simply to America. To America and Americans that make up this incredible country.
You're here.
Cheers.
You're here. Fantastic.
So I'm gonna break out of this, and stop sharing my screen, and take it from wherever we want to go with some questions or talk about some other things.
Sure, Mark, if you could put the mouse over my picture and click on the 3 dots and make me the host again.
What if I don't?
Yeah, what?
Well,
don't get greedy.
This will end badly, I think, if it doesn't work that way.
Who are we going to make angry? Coop?
Yes.
Give me the hourly rate for making William Cooper, Cigar Coop, angry, and I'll PayPal you. No,
I think I got a little bit of credit earned up, but
we got some cushion.
Yeah, we got a little bit of cushion.
Mark, in Legions of Honor, you talk about you had many deployments, you and others. How many deployments have you made downrange, Afghanistan and Iraq and in the Middle East?
Too many, Bobby.
Too many, Bobby.
Too many. It has taken a toll on my family. This coronavirus has given us the opportunity to kind of come together again as a family and be here. I think my wife's ready for me to hit the road again, get out selling some more bourbon. But it's been good. You know, I've missed out on a lot of my children's childhood at some key events. But that's what I did is I deployed, I don't know, 10 plus times in uniform. And then I went back more than that in as a contractor back to both Iraq and Afghanistan, helping support our special operations community. And I realized I had to get off of that. And I took a job down in Tampa with the Special Operations Command, and then came down there to help be a core part of getting our incredible Horse Soldier Bourbon brand up and running and go in the last 3 years. So I'm very proud of my teammates and very blessed to be a part of this incredible company.
We're proud of you and your teammates, Mark.
Yep.
So
thank you. I've you know, I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of that insight here and some of those experiences. But I've also been with a speakers bureau. I'm with Kepler Speakers Bureau. And the last 2 years, I've had the opportunity to share this story dozens of times with different trade shows and conventions and CEO groups, the Tampa CEO Council, construction workers, medical workers, financial accounting, engineer societies, police and law enforcement. It's just been incredible. And in February, right before this broke, I was at the Air Force Academy for a several-day leadership conference, and I got to speak to several of my largest audiences of nearly 3,000 cadets and staff and participants. And I'm just honored to have the opportunity to share a little bit of that insight in this incredible story that my teammates and I experienced right after 9/11, and some of the leadership aspects, the problem solving, the resilience, and share a little bit about our incredible craft bourbon brand, Horse Soldier Bourbon. So I give that plug. But HorseSoldierBourbon.com, I encourage your listeners to check that out. The discount code I'm sharing is MN10. That's MN10. But I encourage them to go check us out at HorseSoldierBourbon.com, the Where to Buy feature, and check us out in the 9 states that we're in, and ask for us in their favorite saloon and restaurant. You guys have been such great partners with us at Davidoff's and at Corona Cigars and JC Newman, your cigars and everything. And I want to figure out, how do we do that to help get your products in these other states with us as well? Because I think we have a great partnership, and enjoy the mutual support and cooperation of our businesses in the state of Florida.
Well, we're all about Florida, and I know how hard it is with a business startup. Mark, there's a lot of challenges on everything, whether it's business or in your career. What was your hardest mission out of all the crazy tough missions you've been on? What's been your hardest mission in your life?
On the military side, that was definitely some tough days in Afghanistan. That mission wasn't overnight. Right after 9/11, we weren't in and out in one period of darkness. That mission went on for nearly 3 months. And in that first 3 weeks, as we dispersed our team, there was no one else that could figure this out. Secretary Rumsfeld, we talked about the military, the White House, they wanted you to achieve some effects, but they could not tell you how to do that. And so we were just fighting to survive the next 5 minutes, the next hour, survive the day. But there were some tough days there with my teammates, because we knew we were the ones that were on the ground right there at that critical moment that could take action that might cost us our lives. And it cost the lives of our allies. Hundreds of our Afghan allies were killed in that. And so those were some of the toughest days when you, as the commander, the leader, with the information I have available, I am making decisions that may cost the life of my teammates. It may cost my own life, or it may cost the lives of my allies. And those were some of the toughest days. And we have to live with that. And I'm proud to have been a part of that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Hey, Mark, I was at Davidoff, the Corona Cigar in Tampa, with Jeff Owens, and I guess last Thursday, Scotty was there signing bottles, and I bought some bottles and had him sign and gave them away. Jeff knows who I gave them to, and I told Scotty Neal, who was a Green Beret, is a retired Green Beret, 25 years, and I said, Scotty, I finally discovered why so many people, so many Americans admire you and Mark Nutsch and Rob Schaefer and Bob Pennington, is because very few people have the balls to do what you did. And you go into after 9/11, everyone, my kids, they know where they were at 9/11. Everyone has a story, just like I'm an old guy. I remember where I was when John F. Kennedy was killed, and so that's why people have such great admiration. But your story is so incredible, and I think that the average American wants to see you and Horse Soldier Bourbon succeed. And my only recommendation to you is, and thank you for the kudos you gave to Jeff Borysiewicz and to our company. But I know we'll do everything we can. We have a lot of ideas how to help you succeed, because if you succeed, America succeeds.
Well, like we say, I know Scott said this too. We just want to live the American dream we've been defending.
Right.
We're playing catch up. We are. We've lost a lot. We're playing catch up from our peers. Because of that military service, none of us would trade that incredible training and experiences that we've had around the world. That's one of those things in the, I don't know, I think I'm at 20 countries I've been in around the world. American spirits were always brought out by our allies or counterparts, whether that was Jack Daniels or Jim Beam or Johnny Walker Blue, which that's a story I won't get into, or some Russian vodka that, I won't get into that either. But spirits bring people together from very diverse cultures. And, throughout that part, we were on the other side of the bar, but we saw how spirits would bring people from some of the most diverse cultures together and recognize that you do have some common ground and share some cigars or other or smokes or chewed tobacco or whatever that may be. But I think I shared this with you, Bobby. As our team was pulled out, right? You supply cigars back in 2001. You were supplying cigars to the AFES, the Army Air Force Exchange, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So our team was suddenly asked in about mid-December to come back out to the secret air base to brief the Secretary of Defense. And so our team was flown out back to Uzbekistan, and we briefed the secretary and our commanders in person. And it was our first break from combat. But I knew we had to go back in. And we went to the small AFES shopette, and we bought out their entire cigar stock. So if that was your cigars,
yes, it was.
were then flown back in with us and shared out with our Afghan allies, along with some spirits. So
nice.
That's amazing. So, Mark, I got a quick question. A friend of mine who also was up there in Afghanistan, and he was telling some stories about how you guys would have just bags of cash, right? Bags of cash that, to the warlords and stuff like that to try and influence and things, but that the bottles of vodka were some of the most effective gifts, if you will. Is that true?
It was. I've been through a lot of Middle Eastern countries, and in every one of those, it has been my counterpart that has produced a bottle of spirit.
Yeah.
Despite the rules and regulations of the U.S. military regarding alcohol. So being in the Special Forces, we had waivers for those that we had to go through. But yes, we joke about, I mentioned earlier, we inserted with 10 bottles of vodka and $1 million in cash. That was our special equipment.
Love it.
That came in. And so they depict that in the movie 12 Strong, about some of that, and celebrating on special occasions with our Afghan allies.
Supposedly that goes back to when the Russians were there, right? Because they had an acquired taste for this vodka, but they couldn't buy it. They couldn't buy it in that country. So when you showed up with vodka, you're like Santa Claus, man. It's like,
I assure you, since then, there perhaps are some spirits that have been delivered into that country. I hope someday we have a store that carries Horse Soldier Bourbon in Afghanistan. I don't know. Maybe that's a little silly. But I will tell you that some of our amazing bottles have made it back over there and have been shared out with some of our friends and allies.
Mark, yeah, I mean, my brother used to say that, you know, and I've read up on it. He says, you know, the pomegranates coming out of Afghanistan are fantastic.
Yes.
He says, you know, but the opium's 10 times better. So it's one of these things that he just, you know, it's a country filled with history.
Oh,
you were part of it. I mean,
yeah, we were part of it. But I will tell you this, it has so much history. It's incredible. To learn some of that insight, again, I'll recommend The Last Warlord. It's a book by Brian Williams that is very deeply researched. Brian went on the ground 3 different summers living with the Afghans that I worked with. And so he learned it's the Afghan version of what it was like to have a team of Green Berets and CIA officers work with them through that tumultuous period. But Brian is a historian as well and a subject matter expert on Central Asian history. And it gives you some of the insight. I will say that every day for me in those mountains was like a history lesson. Our allies were explaining the battles that they had fought or their father had fought against the Soviets. And so they would explain to you in detail how a fight had occurred at this terrain that you're now preparing to fight another battle on. And you're trying to absorb the lessons to make sure that we come out victorious. But I had the opportunity to fly over some of the most rugged terrain on the planet later in another job. And I took as many photos as I could. The geology and the country is incredible. If they could put their differences aside and get security established, you know, Kabul was known as like the Paris of that part of the world. It was very modern at one point before it was destroyed. But you know, there were some of the terrain I've flown over would be incredible resorts for skiing or outdoor extreme tourism, rock climbing or kayaking in some of the most beautiful, incredible places on the planet that I've seen. But I will also share that, I mean, my teammates and I, we stood at the walls of Balkh.
Yeah.
That is the ancient city of Balkh, Balkh.
Yeah.
That was a flourishing city on the Silk Road, but it was the prominent trade center when Alexander the Great came there. And that whole thing, and you stare and you look up at those walls and you just wonder at the history of the place.
Yeah, my brother's talked about, and even, I mean, listen, my mother's a military historian and she's done a lot of this stuff, and she talked about, and what I've heard is just that, you know, the Bactrian Empire, which was based off from Alexander the Great, you know, the red beards, which came out of Macedonia and Thrace from the Greeks, and it was just before, you know, marine trade was being taken place with Marco Polo, when trade came through Afghanistan and so forth by land.
Yeah.
I mean, Afghanistan was flourishing, but when marine trade began to take place, Afghanistan kind of, and then, you know, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan destroyed everything, but Afghanistan was flourishing, and pomegranates, and it just, the country was, irrigation system was taking place.
Yeah. We saw some of that. I saw some incredible aqueducts. So you have to think, how did they construct this with handheld tools?
Yeah.
You know, so just some of the engineering feats, and the life and what that must have looked like, you know, in centuries ago, with how flourishing those areas must have been, and then to see them now, how they have changed. But we're just honored to be a part of that. I've been back a number of times to visit, both in uniform as a contractor and even as a private citizen, doing a humanitarian effort on the ground there, helping out some schools with clean drinking water, things we take for granted, with education, and helping support them with English textbooks and things that will help give them an economic opportunity to pull their family or community out of poverty. I'm very proud of the fact that some of those kids I helped went on and were interpreters. And several of them reside in Dallas now. Some of the interpreters that work alongside me and my teammates back in 2001 are now living in Dallas. And I feel so compelled to try to support them in some way. They've come all in with their families to be part of the American dream. And we're trying to find, if you know anyone in Dallas that'll give these incredible Afghan interpreters a shot, please give them a job. They've got jobs, but the guys I know have been leaders, they're project managers, they're engineers, they're educated, they're multilingual, and they're just looking for an opportunity, but they've come in with their families and their young children here to America, and I'm trying to find ways to help them in the Dallas area.
Mark, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was down in Dallas probably 2 years ago for the Oklahoma-Texas game. And after the game, our Uber driver was actually a translator for American forces when in Afghanistan. And I started just chatting with him and talking about everything, to the point where, like, my wife's just hammered from the Texas State Fair. And I'm like, honey, just shut the hell up. I'm talking to this guy. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to take up so much of your time, and I'm going to throw you some dollar bills just so I can talk with you. Nicest kid ever. And he talked about how he has family still in Afghanistan, and he's working and so forth. And I'm like, listen, if there's anything you need, just please let me know. Fascinating stories. And it's just wonderful. There's some wonderful people. As you know, and it's just incredible.
So, Mark, on a different topic, when's the last time you rode a horse?
About 3 weeks ago, at my family's ranch up here. We still use horses for checking cattle and doctoring, and my son and I were out helping my father and doing a little cowboying. We had to get out there and rope a steer in the pasture that needed doctored, and moving some cattle around. So that's been my release, kind of my refuge, is to get back out on that horse and enjoy, the Flint Hills that I grew up in. I've been asked to be chairman of the Flint Hills Discovery Center, which is an incredible prairie educational area to the region where my family ranches and where I grew up. And that's in Manhattan, Kansas. So I am the spokesperson for a fundraising effort there to create an endowment. They're trying to raise $4 million for this incredible education center that helps teach young kids about the history and the geology of this region.
So your family still has active cattle ranch in Kansas then?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I saw where you were the guest speaker for the Registered Angus Beef Convention there too. So that was
that's
like
one of
going
the
home.
It was like talking to friends and family, to neighbors, and it was an audience, one of my largest audiences of nearly 2,200 people. Until I was at the Air Force Academy this last February, and we hit 3,000. So I've had a number of my speaking engagements have been canceled. Over a dozen were canceled, and we've tried some of these virtual conferences. It is certainly different, but I enjoy sharing the story, and I look forward to being able to be a keynote speaker at different conferences or CEO groups or business groups again, to try and, again, talk about leadership and problem solving and resilience and just this incredible experience that we've had, and how we're using those skills to create our own company, and I welcome all the friendships I've had from that. So it's just been amazing how this story touches so many people in so many different ways.
Yes.
I've had, people come up to me afterwards that were just in tears, and when they stood in line to talk briefly with me, and then they just were so emotional as they got there. But I know what that is now. They lost someone on 9/11.
Yeah.
And then they will come back to me and share a little bit of that pain or that sorrow or that pride of service that they or their family members have. And it just touches people in so many ways. I've had airline workers come up to me in tears, an airline stewardess, how she explained that she was almost on one of those flights on 9/11, and she got moved to another flight, but then, she lost her friends or coworkers. It's very powerful. You just never know who's in that audience and the lives that are touched.
No, you touched on it. I mean, my father died before September 11th, and my mother has always talked about how she's grateful my father never lived through September 11th, just because of how devastated he would have been from everything. But
there was definitely devastation, but do you remember how united we were as a country on September 12th? On September 14th, how united we were.
Yeah, it's funny because, well, from September 11th, I remember my parents were college professors. But I lived in New York, northern New York at the time, and I remember after September 11th, my mother drove to we had one mosque in our town, and she called my father was dead at this time, and she called the chief of police who played the bagpipes at my father's funeral, and she said, listen, you need to get an officer up to the mosque, because if you don't, there's something that's going to be happen. And I remember she fed me like a spaghetti dinner, and she drove to the mosque. My mother did. And she stood outside the mosque while there were Muslim Americans inside the mosque, who were praying because they were so devastated for America, for their country.
Yeah.
And she stood outside the door, and my mother, who is not a police officer or military person, basically stopped 5 people from going into the mosque with weapons, saying these are not our enemies.
No, they're not.
They're our Americans. And finally, the chief of police showed up. And I was like, gosh, the courage for it. And at the same time, my brother, who was overseas studying internationally in Vienna, saw individuals celebrating the pain that our country was going through, and at that moment he said, I'm gonna serve our country. Who then decided to get a master's degree in Central Asia. He started learning Farsi, started learning Pashtun, and then he decided to join the army, and then eventually becoming, like you, Special Forces. And it was just, there was so much, and I was still like a freshman in high school at the time. I didn't know idea what was going on fully.
Yeah.
It was just showing what America stands for, and what we believe in as a country.
Well, it's to me, this isn't personally about Christians versus Muslims, because we've had some powerful experiences in the mission we talked about where my teammates and I are Christian, and we're kneeling in prayer with our Muslim allies and about to go into battle against other Islamic extremists. To me, that's more about good versus evil, and is not about religious choice. But very powerful. Your mom sounds like an amazing woman to have the courage to do that on that day. And wow. But I thank your brother also for his service.
He thanks you. We all thank you.
It's but that was then. Now we
Yeah.
have incredible challenges as well, and it's going to take the next generation of those people to step up and at the right point do the right thing. It's not about race. It's doing the right thing, in my opinion. And yes, we have some issues we have to address and face.
Yeah.
So Mark, real quick, you mentioned the next generation. How did you become a Green Beret in the Special Forces? So young people that are maybe would like to take that path. How did you end up?
It's tough. It is tough to take that path. But to me, it was the people I wanted to serve with. It was a real mission, and you were going to get some of the best training that was possible in the military. And initially, I was drawn to the physical aspects of it. Growing up on a Kansas cattle ranch, you'd endured that stubbornness and resilience, and you're rolling out of bed at, I'm on the back of a horse to see the sun come up, but those lessons in perseverance and stubbornness that were part of my upbringing, helped me throughout my military career. But, there were people that tried to encourage me to take a different path. But my heart, I just was called to serve in the special operations community. And I was in the infantry initially, and came into the military service through the Army ROTC program, and went into the infantry at the 101st Airborne, and then had incredible experiences there. And then I was fortunate to be selected to go to the Ranger Regiment and be a Ranger platoon leader and officer. And again, incredible shaping to prepare me for the next level, which was to go into Special Forces. And just had incredible opportunities working with people, going around the world, and some of these experiences. But we need young men and women, whether their passion is languages, sounds like in the case of Seth's brother, or their passion is technical service. We got these new things called IT and cyber, that we need talented young men and women to step forth for the tough jobs. Whether that's flying an aircraft and learning those kind of technical skills, or if languages, or intel analysts, or being in a special operator in the Special Forces, the Rangers, the Marine Special Operations, or the Navy SEALs, or the Air Commandos, and fly incredible challenging aircraft. We need young men and women to step forth and help our country, but then to help our allies with some very complex problems. I'm a firm believer that you have to address these problems at the root cause early before they mushroom totally out of control.
Yeah.
Mark, what, excuse me, what, as a Green Beret, you had to learn to speak a language. What was the language that you spoke?
I had about 6 months of Russian. I equate my level to caveman ability, but Rob is much more fluent. Some of my other guys, I went through the same language class as Rob, and I was struggling with it. It was tough. It was one of the toughest courses I ever had to learn that language. But I admit I didn't fully take advantage of it. My team, because of my Russian language skills, we were deployed to Uzbekistan in 2000 to work with the Uzbek Spetsnaz, who were already in a tough fight against these Islamic extremism. Right. And that was pre 9/11. And I was challenged to use my Russian language skills there, but of course they speak Uzbek. So can you imagine you're trying to train counterpart soldiers where we were using interpreters where it's English to Russian, Russian then to Uzbek.
Yeah.
So it takes 3 times as long to convey something. So we realized we had to learn Uzbek. And very basic phrases, and my teammates and I had to learn that we could lead a military patrol using their Russian phrases or Uzbek phrases, and so we had to demonstrate that.
Mark, when you were in Afghanistan and right after 9/11, did the Afghan rulers speak Russian? Did they understand it?
Some did. Most of them spoke Dari, or most of them spoke Dari or
Farsi.
No, Farsi was more to the western part. Farsi is Iranian dialect, correct? If I recall correctly. But we had several. The guys on my team spoke different languages. Several of them were Arabic. We did have a Farsi speaker, but we had to work through the language barriers as well.
That must have been an incredible challenge, wasn't it, Mark?
It was. We had Afghan interpreters that their English was as bad as my Uzbek or Russian, but we had to keep it simple. We had to keep it simple.
Right.
So, Mark, real quick, you're probably dealing with some great horses on your ranch in Kansas. The horses that the Afghans had, were these like tough horses, good horses? When you got on them, was it like, you're used to riding probably like a Cadillac? Are these things?
Yeah, something that's, I'm used to riding quarter horses that are, we team rope and calf rope. They're 15 hands tall, at the withers, and, well nourished, and muscled horses that are conditioned. Some of those horses we rode in Afghanistan, were suffering from malnutrition, but they were just some of the toughest. To me, they are probably like our American Mustangs. They were just tough, wiry, wild animals. And something I learned that's universal, whether you're a guy showing up at, to a different rodeo or team roping, here in the Midwest, and you're asking to borrow somebody's horse, or you show up in Afghanistan and you're asking to borrow somebody's horse, they're not going to give you the good horse.
Of course not.
Yeah. So we got some wild rank horses initially, and my sergeants did an incredible job. One of our guys, Will, earned an incredible reputation for a horse that plunged off a cliff as we're snaking down a trail in a single file. His horse decides it's going to go straight, and it starts leaping like a panther going down this near cliff. And I thought Will was going to be killed. I could hear the shouts behind me, and I look up and I see Will, and all I could do was yell words of encouragement. Will, I thought he was going to be killed. I'm like, he's going to be killed right here. And Will had leaned back. He'd seen an old movie called The Man from Snowy River. And it's about an Australian horse trainer. In that movie, I think it was in the late 80s or something. I remembered watching it when I was maybe in high school. But Will remembered watching that movie at some point, and all he did was lean back. And so his feet are up near the horse's head, and this animal is just leaping, each time it hits. I'm like, oh, Will's going to die. Here we go. And it's just going to be he's going to roll for hundreds of feet in just a big pile. That horse made it to the bottom with Will on his back and ran it out. And I'm just yelling at him going, hey, turn him in a circle. And he finally got the horse to turn and slow down. And then Will jumped off, and the animal was just shaking, it's standing there, and Will's calming him down. And then we get down there and we ride past him, and General Dostum looks at Will and says, surely you must be the best horseman in all of America. He did an incredible job gaining rapport. And then Will, to his credit, he had to get back on that animal and continue to ride. And that was one day of many experiences.
Mark, now General Dostum became vice president.
He did.
He did after Afghanistan to like what, 2019, 18, 16?
just until recently,
Yeah.
he had been the elected first vice president of Afghanistan with President Ghani during his first term. And he, as I understand it, I'm told now, because we're still in some contact with him, but I'm told he's retired from the vice presidency and was just appointed as a marshal, as a 5-star general in their military service.
And the former president was also not your Green Beret unit, but he was also with another Green Beret unit.
Yes, Hamid Karzai was.
Yeah,
with,
Karzai, who was with another one unit. Yeah.
And that's he was with the team. It's called 574.
And they came through Kandahar, didn't they?
They did, from the northeast of Kandahar, and their story is portrayed as one of the 3 in that Emmy-nominated documentary I was telling you about called Legion of Brothers. Mm-hmm. So it gives an overview of their mission as well. And
Mark, you're in, man. No,
Mark,
go ahead.
Thank you. Mark, in the movie 12 Strong, when your A team was helicoptered into Afghanistan, is that true? Was there someone there from the CIA meeting you?
Yes. And that's where they depart from that. The CIA teammates were there with us through every part of the mission. And as it depicts of one of their operators, bravely walking off from the group to go meet with another Afghan commander. Some of my Green Berets went with them.
Did these CIA, you talk about brave guys with large cojones, did they speak the language?
They did. Some of them did. Some of them did not. Some of them had years or a career of regional experience and were much more fluent and would help facilitate some of the deeper conversations that we had to have with the local leaders. But some of them did not speak it. A lot of them are special operations veterans. A lot of them are former Green Berets. And we had some of them, they were kind of in their second career was then going to the CIA. They had retired from Special Forces or were went on to serve in those capacities. And a number of them, I'm proud of those guys too. They managed, with the exception of Mike Spann was killed towards the end of our mission in late November of 2001. He was killed by some Al-Qaeda terrorists that had feigned surrender. But the rest of their team rose to some of the highest ranks within the CIA. They were awarded their agency's highest awards, the Intelligence Star, equivalent probably close to the Medal of Honor from the military. But they've had incredible careers as chiefs of station, and a number of them are now retiring as well. And some of them continue to serve. But,
incredible people, Mark. Also
incredible careers of service.
Yes.
On the realms around the world.
Right.
Mark,
just by we're peppering. I don't mean to. We're peppering you with all these questions, and I think the group here represents the majority of Americans who are awed by what you did, and the people in the CIA, which no American ever hears about, and we're not supposed to. We understand that, but Mark, thank you for your incredible service to our country.
Thank you.
Beyond incredible.
Thank you. We got more to do. There's another chapter. We're still trying to work on that.
Mark. Thank you, Mark.
This Horse Soldier Bourbon brand, and I had the opportunity to share a little bit about it. Again, for the audience, check out horsesoldierbourbon.com. Where to buy us? We're in 9 states. Horsesoldierbourbon.com. They can shop liquor, and we can ship it to 30-some states. And there's a discount code of MN10. And I want them to go to their favor. I need their help. I need your audience's help in helping to grow this incredible brand and be a part of the next chapter in this story. And ask for us in your favorite liquor store. Ask for us in your favorite saloon or restaurant.
Well, also, let me chime in before we close out. So, yeah, on coronacigar.com, we still have the offer with the Horse Soldier Bourbon, the small batch, with the 4 J.C. Newman American cigars and the experimental. So, we have a limited number of those. These Americans are hard to come by. I keep telling Bobby we got to make more. But
well, I hope we sell it out. I hope they do.
On,
I hope they sell them down.
Come on, Bobby. Step it up, Bobby. Mark, I have to say one thing, that the napkins on your website, the unnecessary drink, the Tud.
Merrick, I'm gonna phone a friend. I'm going to Merrick on this.
All right, we're gonna phone a friend to Merrick. My wife was like, "We got to get some of these napkins." I was like, "Honey, I don't know what the hell you're talking about."
Yeah, what are you talking about?
And she's like, "The Tud." I was like, "What the hell is the Tud?" And she says, "The unnecessary drink." I said, "Well, all drinks are necessary."
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're probably gonna have to order some of those. But Mark, you're in Manhattan, Kansas. Are you a Kansas State fan?
I am. I am an alumni from there.
You're a Wildcat fan.
I am. Go Cats.
You have me conflicted here, and this is true American here. I'm an Oklahoma Sooners fan. And you guys killed us in football last year. I mean, we still got our asses kicked by LSU, but you're killing me here.
Well, all right, let's be honest about this. Over the years, the Sooners have dominated. So we got to get our licks in when we can. You know what I'm saying?
You got it in. But now I'm conflicted. So every time I'm going to see them play the Kansas State Wildcats, I'm like, shit. I'm going to think about you, man. And so
well, I am trying.
I'm not saying I want you to win, but
no. Well, let me tell you this. I'll share this with you, Seth. We've had an incredible launch out in Manhattan, Kansas. And
that's good.
I'm hopeful that the wholesaler out there, they're going to help get us into the Kansas State football teams. And Horse Soldier Bourbon, I'm hopeful is going to become one of the predominant bourbons there for the pregame at any of the Kansas State University football games.
Mark,
so I look forward to seeing you if we're playing Oklahoma again. Maybe you should come out, Seth.
Listen,
Horse Soldier.
I'm in full support, and with that, I'd like to say that whatever the bill is to provide beverages of the Horse Soldier Bourbon to the Kansas State football team before they play Oklahoma, I will pay that bill.
What?
As the players drink it before the game. Now,
players are not going to drink it.
I'd like a bottle for every teammate, and I will pay that bill as long as we get a W. So you got to work with me here. We're going to work with Kansas State. I'll fly out there to Manhattan.
Those are young, impressionable college football players. They don't need to be drinking bourbon before the football game. Come on.
Against Oklahoma, they should. I think I will plead that case.
No, gentlemen, we've hit our time limit.
Great save.
So I want to thank all of you, Mark, Merrick, Bobby, Jeff. Mark, we want to thank you very much for your service. You guys are humans doing superhuman things, so we want to thank you very much for that. Really appreciate you sharing your story with us tonight. We'll be sharing all of your information about the website and the discount code and the videos and things like that so people can check it out. And we'll continue to support American Spirits Distillery and the Horse Soldier Bourbon. So thank you guys all for your time this evening.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you all. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. We will all catch you on the next one.
Mark.